And we're live. Alrighty, perfect. Well, Darian, thank you so much for being on. I know
Mhm.
this is something that you've talked about multiple times that you feel uncomfortable and it's not your favorite thing in the world, but I know a lot of people feel that way, especially Teddy when he came on too. But the whole point of this is to make people think about questions that they don't think about every single day and basically be vulnerable and come on and express the opinions and different things that you have and get to find out a little bit more about you. I mean, considering that you're not a very vocal person about yourself, you never have been. So I think this will definitely open up a lot of eyes for people who don't know you extremely well, even though they've probably known you for 10, 15 years. So, well, first of all, thank you. Uh, Secondly, I would say that we have a very unique story. We've been together since June 8th of 2015, which will be coming up on 11 years of dating. We've been talking slash exclusive since January of 2015 or so, give or take. Yeah, our kind of love story has been one that you can kind of write up in the history books and things that you only see in movies a lot of times. So I think we don't take that for granted. We don't take that lightly, and we take a lot of time to make sure that it still is what it is. We value our time together, and we value everything that we've built from the ground up. You know, going from not even knowing who you were, just the little redhead boy that I thought was on the soccer field, to my wife and mother of soon to be two kids. So, life's a crazy, crazy journey, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go along. Um, Anything you like to say? Just happy to be here, huh?
Yep.
That works for me. All right. So, first question, put you on the spot. What was the moment you knew we were going to be together for the rest of our lives?
If you want me to answer these questions like you want me to,
Uh-huh.
I would say the first moment was before I even knew who you were.
Mhm.
Um, I just remember you playing soccer and you were so kind compared to all the other boys that we were playing with at the time. And I was like, yep, you see that guy? I'm attracted to him. That's the man I'm going to marry. And I remember sitting in my friend's car telling her that. And she's like, Darian, you don't even know his name. And I was like, not yet, but we're going to figure it out. And from that point on, I made it my mission, and I think I accomplished it at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that goes back to our first date when Nick Carusis invited me to go bowling
Mhm.
and then told me when we were there that, "Oh, by the way, Ashley Overberg and Darian are coming." And I go, "Okay, so?" And he goes, "Well, I kinda said it was a double date." And I'm like, "You did what now?" And he's like, "Yeah, so you're on a date." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So, um, I think one of the things that stuck out to me that night that you told me later on too was that I was always a flirt. That's just kinda how I was, but,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I pinched your butt in, like,
Yep,
the first minute
yep.
there, and so, of
Instead
course
of paying for me, you pinched my butt.
well,
That's what happened.
I had to let you know I was around.
Nick paid for her, and you pinched my butt and walked away.
Well, I'm a gentleman, what can I say? But, yeah, I'm sure in your mind, yeah, that solidified that that's what it was, and in my mind, I thought we were just still having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
11 years later, here we are. But yeah, no, I think that's a good one. What do I think? What was the moment I knew we were going to be together for the rest of our lives? I think it was basic. Basic. I know
Yeah.
I've said it multiple times where I literally wrote back to mom and dad saying, "Hey, guess what? I'm going to marry her when I get home." Luckily, I didn't and took the right route of taking a little bit of extra time. It was just every night where it was just seeing a picture of you and talking to Chin Hao and talking to my other buddies there, and it was just like nobody else had what we had. You know, when you get into the trenches like that and all you have is company and just talking to people, everybody just laying it all out to them. It's just like I've never heard of something like that. I've never been around people that have that kind of connection, and so um, it was just one of those moments. There wasn't like a light bulb moment. It was just like being there and being like, "There, you're the only person I want to talk to. You're the only person I want to be with, even in this crazy situation right now." So, um,
Amount of relief I got after basic when we drove down to see you, that was definitely like, "Yep, this is where I'm meant to be," and, like, that was kind of, like, the first time I'd actually get to spend a lot of time with your parents on a trip too and, like,
yeah.
get to know your siblings a little bit more too, so that definitely was like, "Yep, this is where I'm supposed to be."
What a crazy 5 months that was, but I'm sure we'll talk more about that later for sure. What do you think so obviously us being together for 11 years, and I would like to think that we're successful. We, grew up towns apart. We ended up going to Briarcliff together for a semester, and then I went to SDSU, and even then you followed me. And then when I went to Oregon, and we went and moved out together, and then we moved back, and we've had kids, and we've had all kinds of things, a marriage now for almost 4 years. And so I'd like to think that we're pretty successful at what we've done and what we've built. But what do you think is one of the most important factors of being a successful couple for somebody who's out there who's trying to build something like that?
I think communication
Mm,
has been our biggest thing, like, whether we are a town apart or we're living on top of each other in the same small room in a house full of guys in college,
mm,
having conversations that are hard and around people that you weren't I wasn't very comfortable around the guys when I first moved in, but that was the biggest thing in setting my boundaries and understanding who you were and your boundaries and going from there.
yeah. Um, I think, yeah, communication's always been a big one. And like I said, we got lucky. We spent a large majority of our building stages of a relationship texting.
Yeah.
And, I still have a lot of photos of during that time where we just had these giant messages or we'd send each other voicemails in the morning. And I know, like, when Teddy came on, he's like, "Oh, it's kind of weird, but like we go to sleep together." And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's not. You have
FaceTiming now.
you have the little things that keep that connection, that build in that what flourishes the relationship because you don't get those
Mhm.
face to face or you don't get those times that you get at that time when you're trying to build the foundation of your relationship. So communication's everything. And yeah, it would have been nice to have it face to face and in person more than just texting it all the time or staying up till 2 in the morning on FaceTime and then, waking up the next morning at 7 to go to school or whatever. But um we've been given this opportunity through the day and age that we live that we got to do that.
Texting communication is different than in-person communication, and that was one of the hardest things that I struggled with, was I would say a lot more over text just
Yeah,
because I didn't wanna be vocal about it, and I would just kinda let you speak over me, and then eventually we learned that I it's not gonna be successful if I don't communicate how I was feeling in the moment,
yeah.
so I think that was another thing.
I agree with that. It's strangely enough, I still find that like when you go to work, even to this day,
Mhm.
I'll just unload on a text. Which is so weird because we could be together all day long, and it's not that I don't wanna say anything, it's just, like, my brain doesn't like, when you're finally gone, it's like I reflect back on everything that day or whatever it is, and then I'm like, "Oh, we gotta touch up on all the points." But that's how we developed
Yeah.
as a partnership was that we got to enjoy every second we had together, but then we got, days, weeks to reflect on it, so then we would text about it and just, keep that communications.
That's why we
It's
do good apart too, like,
yeah.
we do well whether we're together.
It built that foundation because, yeah, I think a lot of times when people are so used to being, you know, molded together, I think that's why a lot of high school couples fail is because they grew up their whole time being so accessible.
Yeah.
And then when you start making decisions about your own life and you're separated, then it's like, "Oh my god, they're not right there and I can't rely on them for everything." And then you start to identify what you need to do or who you are and you're like, "Oh, maybe these don't mesh with what I originally thought my partner had or what we did together." So, we kinda did it backwards, but I think a lot of the times too, what a fear can be in people is that when you spend so much time apart, that when you're finally together,
Mhm.
things don't mesh either, but we had a completely opposite factor, I would say. I would say we were yearning for that time together, and when we finally came together, it was the easiest thing in the world. I remember I think Brendan scolded you one night. He was like, because we were living together for maybe 3 or 4 months, and we joined bank accounts, and Brendan was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Dylan's still in college, he works at the Boys and Girls Club, and you're out there with a full-time job, like, why would you give him access to your money? And you're like, "Because he's my partner, like, because we're in love, like, that's just he's my partner, we do everything together, we share everything together, like."
We were splitting everything at that point if
Yeah,
we could.
and so it was just one of those things that was so easy, it was just like, we share everything
Was the
together.
question.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah.
I think we got lucky with that in a sense, but, it can go both ways where, yeah, you get either you start super molded and then expand or you are out expanded and you join together and you figure it out, but I mean, either way, you have to figure it out together, and I think it all starts with communication. If you're not communicating and you're keeping
Yeah.
emotions, feelings, thoughts, ideas inside, and you're not sharing that with the person who means most to you in the world, then you're not compromising or you're not accomplishing goals. you're not building the future in a sense. You're building your own future if you're ignoring and not talking to each other. So I think that's huge. Well, here's an interesting one. Uh, what is the first memory that comes to mind when you think about us?
I go back to the soccer fields a lot,
Mm,
um, just because that's where we started, but also that was where I remember it being the happiest and, like,
mm,
having no worries, no fears. We were in high school at that point, so it's like we were invincible,
mm.
um, and so whether it was daytime we were shooting around or nighttime we were running around or stargazing, as we say it,
Yeah.
um, we would still just have, like, these in-depth conversations just laying there and just staring up at the stars, and I still remember that. That was still one of my favorite things to do, and, like, I don't know, just yeah, that's definitely my first favorite memory.
I think one of mine was, and you probably don't even know this story actually, when you went to Substate and it was me, Tyler, Kubat, and Malik, believe it or not. We drove an hour and a half or 2 hours, wherever it was, and we watched you guys win Substate and go to state for the first time, I believe, in Spencer girls' history.
Yeah.
Um, which you have the infamous shank in that game
Yeah,
that everyone still talks
4 feet
about.
away from the
4
goal.
feet away from the goal and shanked it.
I made up for it, it's fine.
Yes, you did score 2 other goals, so it's fine, and you
1 from a
guys
corner kick.
yes. But it was everybody was so excited and everything, and we weren't dating at that time, but I was like, "Oh, there's no more perfect time. Let's cap off the day. You're already on an extreme high. Let's just make it the best that you possibly can ask for." But what the thing that stuck out most to me actually was when we drove all the way back, my mom was the one who helped me out with everything. So
Interesting, I did not know that.
we got home and I was like, "Mom, Darian's coming over. Tonight's the night. I'm gonna ask her to be my girlfriend." And she's like, "Well, you can't just ask her, Dylan. You gotta give her something." And I was like, "Okay, so what should we do?" And she's like, "Well, we need to get her flowers or a card or something that like means something." And I was like, "Okay." And so she actually was the one who drove me, and we went to Hy-Vee, and I picked out a dozen roses or whatever it was, and well, I think a card and maybe some candy and whatnot. And
Mhm,
she was there the whole time, and she's always been so supportive of you and always loved you and knew you were the right person for me,
mhm.
and I know forever it took you a super long time to understand that or agree with that, I guess you could say, but that was the first one where it was like, you know, my mom was fully involved too and fully was like, "Yep, this is the right thing to do," and went and picked out flowers, and then I waited in the basement, and you came in, and I walked up with flowers and asked you to be my official girlfriend, even though we'd basically been exclusive for 4 months.
Yep.
But we took things slow, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember coming home that night, you were texting me, you're like, "Hey, why don't you stop over? I've gotta talk to you."
hmm,
And
you knew it wasn't bad.
no, but that's not what I thought. I literally was, like, screaming because I was, like, excited, nervous,
Mm.
but also I was like, "If he really has the audacity to ruin my day today by calling it off, I'm going to kill him."
That would've been a good point to do it. That
Yeah.
would've been funny.
So that was
Mm.
my thought coming home, and Ashley knew, she was like, "No, there's no way." I don't know if you had told her at that point or not, but
No.
everyone knew, but it was me trying to be
Everyone knew it, I just didn't know when I was gonna do it.
yeah.
And I think I didn't even know I was gonna do it until you won, and I was like, like I said, let's just top it off. Let's just make it a full-blown thing and,
Probably one of my favorite days.
make it the most. Yeah, I think that definitely stuck out a lot, especially to start everything off. And as I said, the rest is history. But um, I know we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but in the essence of how did long distance make our relationship stronger? I know communication, like we said, is a big thing, but
Mhm.
I think I can go first in this, in the sense of, and we both agree on this, that we became our own individuals.
Yeah.
Um, and we talked about this actually in the car today, but
Mhm.
more or less is that I had always been the guy who I had a lot of people following me. There was a lot of people
Yeah.
who, looked up to me and followed me, and I didn't really recognize that. I knew, but I didn't recognize how bad, excuse me, when I was a kid. And it was you were just always following me. No matter what I did, no matter what I said, it was yes, yes, okay, yep.
Yeah.
And it was never, oh, I want to do this, but Dylan doesn't. Okay, well, I just want to do it. Um,
It was always okay if you didn't want it.
and I don't think it was until we were truly separated where you're like, okay, Dylan's not here. What do I want to do? What's best for Darian? What does Darian want right now? And then when you finally got to do that, when I came back, it was, "Okay, I understand Dylan's wanting to do this, but this is what I wanna do."
Yeah.
And then surely evolved our relationship into more of a 50-50 rather than I would say an 80-20.
Yeah. I lacked a lot of self-confidence up until the point you went to basic, and I relied on not only you, but my coaches, my parents, other individuals to reassure me that I was doing things the right way, doing things the way that it was looked at, like, to be good. And so you had wrote me a note or we had talked about it before you went to basic, and then you were like, "All I want for you to do while I'm gone is to focus on you, figure out who you are, what you want, what you stand for, like, all of the most important things." And your biggest thing that you told me to do, and I still have all the pictures, is you wanted me to take a selfie a day
Mhm.
because I had a lot of like I said, self-confidence, but more image issues too. And so, finding myself pretty and finding myself valuable was something I struggled with and that I focused on a lot. And so I think me finding out who that was when you came back, I was like, yeah, this is who I am. You like me or you don't. And we're going to go with that.
I think that as young and arrogant as I was, that was maybe one of the smartest things I've ever said
Yeah.
was, um, about you yeah, reflecting on yourself. Um,
You knew I struggled with that though.
yes.
Like you knew, like you would have to give me
I had to give you yes,
reassurance.
a lot of reassurance and a lot of things where there was a lot of times where I was like, you're truly a beautiful woman and you're a smart woman and all these things." And I think you were just like, "Oh, well, he's my boyfriend, so
He's
of
got to
course
say
he's gonna
that.
say that,
Yeah.
to make me feel better about himself." It was genuine. It was like, "You're an extremely smart person. You are a beautiful person." And that was my biggest challenge. Yeah, like I said, it was one of the smartest things I've ever done is I said, "Hey, take a selfie every day," and it wasn't that you were supposed to, show off the world like, "Oh, how
Mhm.
beautiful I am." It was that, "Oh, I'm looking back, wow, that's actually a pretty good picture," and taking another selfie and smiling and doing those things like that where it's just like, "Man, maybe I am what people
Mhm.
say I am," and, it takes a lot, and it takes it took 5 months of
Yeah.
not having me there to kinda realize, "Oh, shit, I've got this whole different side of me that I haven't even gotten to explore yet."
Mhm.
Um,
I think it helped me build other relationships too, because I was so focused on you for however long, from high school to college to everything. I had always followed you and your friends, where at this point I didn't have anything else. So I
yeah,
had to go out. I made my friends. I made connections that probably wouldn't have made if you were still there, because I would have been, running off to your place or doing whatever with your friends.
yeah.
Um,
I know that was one of your parents' biggest worries too, was that your junior year, you were on the prom console for as, like, one of the
mhm,
biggest whatever, and then I left, and then the next year, you weren't even on the console for prom at all,
yeah.
just because you had fallen off a cliff so much following me that none like, well, it also didn't help that Emmitsburg kids fucking hated me,
Well,
rightfully
and
so, but
not only that, but I also cut a lot of connections
yeah,
because my junior year, you were graduating, and I really enjoyed hanging out with your friends. And a lot of the times, you guys weren't drinking, you guys were just having a good time being who you were and playing soccer. And that's what I wanted to surround myself in. So I cut off everything else that I had known since I was a kid. Like the girls I stopped talking to, the boys in my class, I was like, there's no reason for me to talk to you because I've got Dylan.
yeah,
And like you had said, a lot of them expressed they didn't like you. And so I was just like, well, there's no point if I can't talk about who I love and be around who I love. Why would I be around you? Um, and I
yeah.
think that's something I do regret is cutting off a lot of those relationships because I mean, I don't talk to anybody from high school.
No, but, I mean There's plenty of people that I can recall of in high school that were important to me at the time, but I haven't talked
Mhm.
to them since, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, I have my friend group but I mean, there's so many people that I played so many sports with and spent so much time with, and I haven't talked to them since, or I've talked to them very minimally. Um,
And they helped me build who I was too, especially in those parts of life.
yeah. But I mean, you gotta look at too, when I was in college, you know, the Tucson boys, as we say,
Mhm.
um, at that moment, they were the most important people in my life.
Yeah.
They were so huge. I mean, we didn't spend 1 second. We were so connected that we pushed 4 bunk beds into a tiny college dorm
Yeah,
room
you did.
so we could all live together, and then we put 4 PlayStations in a separate dorm room so we could all spend games together. That's how close we didn't wanna spend a second apart. And I hate to say it, but I haven't talked to some of those guys since.
Yeah.
And, so I think it's not that you didn't have memories or relationships like
Mhm.
Sarah Pugh or Sarah Symington or, even Ashley. I think if they were in Kansas City and you said, "Hey, I wanna come let's go
Yeah.
sit down and have a coffee," I'm sure if you guys sat down and talked, that it would be like it never happened, but I think that's life. And so, I think you're
All
just
grown in each our own ways too,
yeah.
so
I mean, how many other people do we know of that were in those committed high school relationships and actually made it all the way, and
Mhm.
so it's hard to say, "Oh, I regret not having those connections,"
Right.
because it's like, I was kinda doing the
My
right
most
thing.
my most important relationship has been you, and
And, I mean, that's unfortunately the hard part of being a adult is knowing that you have to drop some of those relationships,
Mhm.
and you can't keep up everyone even if you want to.
No, it's exhausting.
It's just hard, like, for instance, Ryan Williams, shout out Ryan, my old sales manager. I mean, we were literally from day one I started at Ashley Furniture to the day I left for 2 years, inseparable, to the point where when I was succeeding, I brought him with and made him my sales manager, told him absolutely everything, my deepest, darkest secrets. I love that guy. I've told him to his face that I love him, and I haven't talked to him in probably 5 or 6 months, and it's relationships like that where you lose a lot of those through time and commitments and all those kinds of different things that just suck, but it's life, and so I think that's a part of the podcast too, is that, it sucks. I don't like being on social media, I don't like being vulnerable and
No.
being on camera, and neither do you, but I think it's important to put this out there, and I think it's important for people to still have the ability, if they want to listen to us, to talk, communicate through social media with us,
Yeah.
and give those opportunities. So,
That's what I
um,
use social media for nowadays anyways, is to update family and friends, people we've gone by on the years of our life, and
yeah,
I like to see what they've been doing as well, like, little things, big things, celebrations, sad things, all the things.
yeah, I think so. Um, well, before we get on too many more tangents, we'll transition to the next part. But, um, obviously, becoming a parent becoming parents 20 months ago has changed our lives entirely, as it does with everybody. But how would you describe how our relationship has evolved since officially becoming parents? And I mean, now even about to have two.
Besides our communication having to improve even more than we thought it was,
Yeah.
I think my trust has had to be expanded. Like, I would trust you with the dogs, you do fine with the dogs, but they're dogs, they're gonna live.
Yeah.
Trusting you with a child was different, especially with how much anxiety and control issues that I do have. Um, so
Yeah.
I think we found out a lot more about each other than we already had known as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's been a crazy journey, and I think that we can both agree, at my core, I can be an extremely selfish person.
Yeah.
And I have always been internal, and I've always tried to focus on what's most important to me. But I think one of the biggest steps that I've ever taken is that when we became parents, is moving back from the West Coast to the Midwest and saying, "Hey," and it wasn't. There's a lot of different reasons why we did it, but
Yeah.
the more or less is the number one why we did it is because we both looked at each other and said, "Hey, I don't want our kid to grow up around West Coast virtues."
Mhm.
Not saying they're bad. Like I said, I've always claimed to be a West Coast kid. I have a lot of West Coast ideology and different things like that about myself. But there's nothing quite like the Midwest growing up and raising kids and giving them that really good core. Not only that, but being around grandparents and all these different things. So, um,
And I think too, like, I really enjoyed how we grew up in the Midwest in a small town. We did life that way, and then we were able to explore and figure out things for
yeah,
ourselves, which I think is huge. Because I mean, you are open to almost too much sometimes being on the West Coast, um, and so I hate to say shelter, but we shelter more in the Midwest, I feel like, and so giving her that protection for a little bit longer and then having her figure it out just like we did is kind of what I am hoping that she can do as well.
yeah, yeah. I just think that when you become a parent, you realize that yeah, it's not about you anymore.
Right.
It just doesn't matter anymore, and so, living your whole life, you didn't get to figure out how to be selfish or to focus on yourself till you were in your almost 20s,
Mhm.
but for me, I was always selfish. That's just kind of a personality trait that I've had for myself. I was always thinking about the next step and how I can progress myself, and, obviously carrying my friends and family and people that cared about me along the way, but it was just always that me first kind of mentality, and obviously being a parent, it's complete opposite, and everything is about, okay, it's gotta be a check mark. Is Frey okay? Wife's good. Okay, now is Dylan okay? Rather it was Dylan, okay, make sure the wife's good too, and then we'll fuck off and do whatever. So,
I don't know if this is a nurse in me, but, like, I've always had that check mark, like, I've always been the soccer mom on the team,
yeah,
taking care of people, making sure people have got their stuff, and then even with you, like, "Do you have everything we need for the weekend? Do we wanna do this? Have I booked the hotels? Have I
you've
booked
got
the
that mom in
planes?"
you, I'll give
Like,
you that.
but even, like, becoming an actual mom, that was intensified times 100, and,
Yeah,
like, I still struggle with some of the things, like, of the mom role, the traditional mom role of I think the first time your mom came to visit us in Oregon,
mm,
I forgot the diaper bag wherever we were going,
yeah,
and so I was like, "Okay, I will remember the diaper bag," she stepped up and was the mom of the mom at that point, and I needed that more than anything, um, but those are the things that I'm still trying to fill, and as a mom of 4 or a mom of 10, like my mom, like, you just
mhm,
learn those things as you go, to make your life easier, and so I look up to them a lot.
yeah. I mean, I think you could agree, yeah, it's just that our relationship has changed in the sense as parents is that we check in each other more.
Oh, yeah.
And we're both guilty of it, where beforehand without Freya, it was like, "Oh, I can see Darian, she must be alright, back to my games,"
Yeah.
or, "Oh, Dylan's still at this gaming desk 12 hours later, he
Yeah.
must be alright," and just kinda, like, passing it off as that, still checking in at the end of the day, like, "Oh, how was your day?" This, that, and the other thing, but
Mhm.
now it's like, we don't go an hour, if not less,
No.
without checking in on everything. Like, even if I'm down here doing
Mhm.
podcasts and whatever, or you're doing your studies, it's like it's still like an hourly check. Like, "Hey, you good? Kid good? Dog's good? Perfect. All right, back to what I was doing." So, lots and lots of changes, but I think all for the best, and our lives will never be the same, and
No.
especially entering the second one, and we're gonna do it again.
Fully committed now.
Yeah, we're doing it. It's just happening, and I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but yeah, it was like, when I first thought about having 1 kid, I was like, "Okay, well, we just gotta get through everything, and then when the kid can figure itself out, then we're back to normal." So it's just like a couple of years I gotta figure it out, but now being at number 2, hitting that reset clock was kind of a gut check, I'm not gonna lie, where I'm like, "Oh!" And
Yeah.
the second one's so much different because the first one, you're like, "I don't know what's gonna happen. I have no idea. Everything's brand new. Everything's different, blah, 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 blah." But the second one, it just feels like, "Oh, I know exactly what's coming. I know exactly what we're gonna do again." And it's like,
No.
it literally in my mind would envision if I were to sign up to go to basic again
Yeah.
and just like every day know exactly what the next day is gonna hold and just be like, "Fuck, I did it again," And so, but
Could
I'm
be worse, it could be better, we don't know.
there's millions and millions of people who are doing exactly what we've done, and it's
Multiple
just
times, yes.
multiple times, and it's just like, yep, you just that's what you do. I mean, that's what we're gonna go through, and I don't think we can complain one bit about it, but it's kind of that with a smile, like, fuck. It's like, well,
Yeah. It's
we're gonna do it
exactly the way
again,
to do it.
so that's okay. That's okay. But anyways, we'll move on. So what do you think is the biggest sacrifice that you've had to make to stay in this relationship personally?
Mm.
I can go first if you
Yes, please.
well, it goes back to the selfishness.
Mhm.
There was a point in time in our relationship, and we can both recall of it. It was 2019, right before COVID. I was I failed a semester of college. I was drinking 4 to 5 times a week. I did nothing but play video games, hang out with the boys, and not give a fuck about Darian one so bit.
Yep.
And it was, "Hey, asshole, if you don't completely flip your life, you're gonna lose the woman you're gonna spend the rest of your lives with and be the mother of your child to." And it was a big reality check. And so I think the biggest sacrifice that I made was having that if I want this life and I want this for my future, it doesn't matter about me. It doesn't mean that I can't have selfish moments or do things that
Yeah.
I want to do. It was just that, "Hey, you can't do this anymore. You cannot be the 100% selfish. You can't just only focus on yourself and you can't be just out and doing whatever." It's just like, hey, you got to sacrifice not only your time, your thoughts, your energy into this, no matter where you're at. In my mind, it was like, oh, I mean, we've been together since we were kids. Like, Darian knows we're good. Fuck it, back to the party. Or, oh, Darian texts me today. I'll text her, how's your day? All right, back to the party. And she'll say, okay, and it was just like, so, I mean, maybe not. And when I say biggest sacrifice, it sounds dramatic, but it was a sense of like, it's a reality check. So I would say that's part of a sacrifice is reality hitting and you just drop everything that you're accustomed to and gear towards a different way.
Yeah.
So,
I think the biggest sacrifice I would say was moving to Oregon.
mm,
I think we had always
I think
talked
it's
about
fair.
it as a kid that we wanted to get out and explore. California was always what we had said, and that was fine too. But
Yeah.
I am such a family oriented person that when we moved, I had to essentially, like, I couldn't be around them 24/7. And I had, 5 siblings at home at that point. So dropping them to choose you was really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and I still was reminded of it like every couple months. It's like, oh, I gotta go home. I gotta go home. But
You went home
I,
every single month
for the
for
first year,
14 months in a row. That's a lot of plane tickets and a lot of travel time.
yeah.
But
But
yes.
if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have learned that in a marriage that you have to choose your partner first.
Mm,
Otherwise, that marriage isn't gonna be successful. And so I think pulling me away from my family it sucked and I hated every second of it, but it also made us stronger and it made me rely on you rather than texting my mom, which I still do that nonstop.
yeah.
It's in a different fashion than it used to be.
Yeah. And that was kind of a wake up moment for me too, is obviously I knew how close you were with your parents and your family in general. But to me, it was just like, oh, she's just still got that youthful mindset. Like
Mhm.
everybody moves away from their family, everybody,
Yeah.
whatever. I didn't realize how close you were. And I was shielded by it in the sense of I've had so many good friends for so long that it was like when family wasn't there, I just filled it with friends.
Yeah.
And so I never had a void of missing connection or like having somebody close to me because I always had people around me, whether it's you, my buddies, or
Mhm.
army guys, whatever it was. I've always had that ability, and it's just kind of my personality to connect with people, and always had that like just the charisma in me of drawing people close to me and loving them and going through things with them. You never had that, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. Or I didn't have that click in me until we were gone and it was like, "Oh, Darian's coming home, and she's only talking to me and Kubat,
Mhm.
but there's nobody else, and she can't talk to her parents." I mean, you FaceTime them every day, you still do,
Mhm.
but it was just like there's no outlet. There's nowhere for you to go to get that what I get, whether it's video games, talking to people, my buddies, work, whatever it is. So that was that, yeah, big moment. I was like, "Oh shit, maybe that is." And before we even knew we were having a kid, that's what led me to wanting to move back, and it was only for you, and I'm
Mhm.
glad we didn't not because at that time, it was just not
It
right,
wasn't
but,
right. Yeah.
that was September, and we found out you were pregnant in October. I don't know I don't think anybody knows this story for the most part other than our parents because I called them saying that we were doing it, but it was the Ashley furniture was falling apart because our store had closed, and then they made me back to sales for a week, at the time, I thought it was gonna be forever. And so and you were extremely upset, and there was the factors of that it was the miscarriage time, so technically our first child was supposed to be due in September. So it's just this whirl of emotions, and we went to the Dells, which I talked about in the past, and that is still one of my most memorable vacations, and it has nothing to do with what I'm about to say next, but it was to the point where I wrote out a 6 to 7 page essay of, "All right, I need to be a good future husband." We were married at that time.
We were married at the time.
Married at the time. "I need to be a good husband and sacrifice everything that we've built and do everything so I can make my wife happy." And I literally wrote out 6, 7 pages of, "Okay, we're gonna order this to move us back. We're gonna do this, that, and the other
Mm.
thing." And for a split second, it felt like the right thing to do.
We
At
were
the end
looking
of
at houses too.
Yeah, we were looking at houses, doing all those things, but by the end of the vacation, I was like, "This isn't right.
Mm.
This isn't good."
It didn't feel right, but
We had both put in our 2 weeks. We had gotten a moving truck. I mean, the whole 9. And then one night I came home and I was like, "I can't do it."
yeah,
I came home and I said,
we
"I
could have
love
packed up
you."
the whole house.
But I came home and I said, "I love you so much." And I felt like I was doing it for the right reasons, but
Yeah,
we're not. We're not doing this for the right reasons. And I know I wanted to do this for you, but I don't think that's the best thing for us. And lo and behold, life, and I say this all the time, life takes its course. And that's why I know why other people think there's a higher power out there, because sometimes that's the only thing that makes sense. But as soon as I made that life altering, "Oh, I thought we were going back to the Midwest and we're not," literally 3 days later, you said, "I'm pregnant." And it was like, "Oh," like,
mm,
and so that's life.
yeah,
You can't make that up, you can't predict that, you can't control that, there's nothing about it. And obviously, it took us another 7 months to come back to the Midwest, but I think the 9 months you were pregnant and we got to live out those, and then another 6, 7 months out on the West Coast was some of the best times of my entire life.
yeah,
100%. I remember that April, so that all went down in September, that following April, I was at the pinnacle high of my life, just analyzing everything and just being myself and all these different things, and I would have missed out on that if we would have just said, "Fuck it, let's move back," and trying to do the right thing,
yeah.
so, um,
Well, and I gotta come home for that month at that point
yeah.
too, and I spent a month home trying to figure out me, and of course, first trimester feelings was awesome.
Mhm.
Um, but I kinda gotta find, like, do I want to live as close as I wanted to live to mom and dad too? Like, I think right now we've got a good balance of being 6 hours, like, we still can do us, but we're there in 6 hours, or they're here in 6 hours, we've got family 3 hours away, like, that
Yeah.
really helped me, be able to know, like, where I wanted and what I wanted, and I think, like you said, being pregnant at the same time helped figure out what we needed to.
Yeah. Um, it's just crazy life. Um, but I think we both agree moving out west was the best thing we ever did,
Mhm.
and I do think that when everything's said and done, giving Freya and the future baby the Midwest and being around grandparents and everything will be a great decision that I can reflect on and be happy about. And then whatever happens after that. So
Yeah.
it's hard to get a grand scheme of things until you're years into it and get to reflect on it if you're making the right decisions, if you're doing the right thing. But I mean, I don't think there's really anything that we have looked back and said, "Oh, fuck, we really screwed that one up," you know?
No, I think we've learned from everything we've done
Um,
in good ways and bad ways, and
yes.
we are very much go with the flow type of people, so
Which I say that, but it leads into another question
mm,
of what do you think is the biggest mistake we've ever made together?
boy.
I don't know, like I said, I don't think we've really made a lot of mistakes. I really don't. The first one that comes to my mind is Zola. If anyone doesn't know or hasn't seen our 85-pound 2 by 2. Yes, Zola, our bull terrier. I think that is the biggest mistake we've ever made. Yes, she's incredible with Freya. She is a wholesome dog, but I think that was the stupidest thing we ever did.
Yeah.
And it came at a bad time where I was at one of my lowest points. and you're like, "I think 3 dogs would be perfect."
Living in a house with 5
We
guys
live in a house, 5
and
guys,
another dog.
and I just didn't know how to say no, so I was like, "Well, if that makes you happy, then go ahead, buy it." But that was hands down, I think, the worst thing that we've ever done because we have reaped that fucking horror for 5 plus years, and that dog's gonna live for another 10.
Yeah, she's gonna live forever.
So, I just that's the first thing that mistake came out to me, you know? It's and even now with 2 about to have 2 kids and then having 3 dogs and 2 cats, you know, growing up, I was just like, "Oh, we want this huge dog family. It's gonna be so cool," and, you know, my parents were always like, "Well, you know, Dylan, they are gonna live for 10 plus years," and I was like, "Yeah, that's good. That's awesome, right?"
Yeah.
But you don't realize, like, we graduated 10 years ago. Nova's gonna be 10 this year. Like, we've
Mhm.
literally spent our entire time raising dogs and animals and always having those commitments, and I don't think we realized how much of a burden it is until we lost Kubat.
Yeah.
And shout out to Kubi, what a wonderful human being he was, but
Same with my parents too,
and your
we've always
parents
had somebody to just watch
watch
the
the dogs
dogs.
and help us with it.
And we didn't have to take Hector with us on a car
Yes, the
ride.
fish. That's a different story. But yeah, just having that burden of complete responsibility, we have been so lucky not to have that, but now that we do, it's like, you know what, maybe mom was right back in the day when we were getting so many dogs. I do think that that's one thing I wouldn't take it back because I love them all so much and
Mhm.
they've taught us so much and, I mean, I couldn't take it back. There's nothing but if I were to do it all again and just be cautious and be like, "Hey, yes, Nova maybe was early to think she's one of the best dogs anyone's ever met.
Oh, yeah.
Horace, I know he's shy to people. I think he's one of the best dogs. He's my boy.
He's a dog dog.
I love him to death. I think we could have stopped there. I think we could have had Nova, Horace,
And
and then
Bobo.
Bobo. Fuck Zola. Patra was on me. I'll take that one on the
That one
chin.
was you, and she
And we didn't get
is
her till Oregon.
same.
So
But the 2 extras are the best ones with Freya,
they are.
and they
Crazy
love
enough.
pregnant Darion,
They
so
do. But yeah, I think if we were to say what's our biggest mistakes we've made, it's just the extra animals. Is and not that animals are bad, or you shouldn't have animals because it does teach you a lot of things. Knowing when to stop might be the best advice that we can give. Enjoy what you have and know when to stop. That might be the best thing I can say.
I think the biggest mistake that I feel like we've made was when I was making COVID travel nurse money.
Mm,
You were working a couple hours, if not working at all,
mhm.
and we were spending it as quick as it came in.
We were spending it like this was gonna last till the day we died.
Yes, and I part of that is us being immature of not ever having a paycheck like that.
Yeah,
Part of it was living on the West Coast and, wanting to have all the things that we could possibly have because
yeah,
why not? We can afford it. But um, the only thing we really saved for was our honeymoon and the wedding. And after that was done, we had nothing.
no,
So I think that was I think that's our biggest mistake is like we could have thousands of dollars plus that in the savings and
yeah,
not feel so broke all the time if we would have thought more responsibility ugh, felt more responsible with our money like we are now with budgeting and all of
yeah.
that, like
Well, yeah, I mean, we have it hunkered down now to, like,
mhm,
the T, and we have it exactly how much we're making this month and how much we can spend so that we are profiting in the positives.
yeah,
But in the past, I mean, we had 30 plus $1,000 in savings, spending 15 plus $1,000 a month and walked away with nothing.
yeah.
And it's like,
But it was also COVID travel nurse money, if you don't know, was $6,000 plus a week, like and that was working 3 to 4 shifts a week. It was
yeah.
nothing.
I completely agree with that. I mean, if we would have done that correctly, I mean, even if we put it in the simplest thing, high yield savings at 3.5%, we
Mhm,
put 30K into it and never touched it for 6, 7 years, we'd have 37, $40,000
yeah,
at hand rather
yeah,
than just spend it in I think one of the biggest things that we also didn't take for or we took for granted or didn't know about was the damn credit card. You know how many times we got 6, $7,000 on it and we're like, "Oh my god, we have to pay every last dime."
yeah,
Little did we know it charges like $100 worth of interest if you don't pay it all off at the same time.
yeah.
Now, yes, we probably would have racked that
Oh,
thing
yeah,
to the
it would've
max if
been
we didn't do
nice
that, but,
if we
like,
didn't pay it off.
I just remember us being like, "Oh my god, we gotta pay $7,000 tomorrow.
Right.
Otherwise, we're gonna get a negative 2,000 credit score and we're never gonna recover." It's like, we coulda taken the $100 interest and paid it off in 2 weeks.
Right. Well, I just remember my mom was so against them growing up because she had
Mhm.
maxed them out quite a bit, and so she was like, "You're never allowed to have one, blah, blah, blah," and then I got one in college, and which I had only used it for gas at that point, but I was
Yeah.
like, "I don't want to ever be in those shoes," so my mental capacity was you have to pay it off every single month no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that was I mean, I'm glad we did it that way because
You live and you learn.
it saved yeah, we didn't max it out, so
Obviously, we have our relation like, the things and personalities that we've lived through, but, I think one of the best things Brendan said was, like, finances is probably the second biggest thing. You know, you have to find that barrier of relationship with who you are and who the other person is and confuse those together to make a life,
yeah.
but finances might be the second biggest thing, and it just takes a lot to go through, and
Well, you're a saver and I'm not. Like,
yes,
that is still one of the hardest things is like I get joy from these little things. You know, buying straws from my Owala or buying Freya a new swimsuit brings me joy, but that's $30 that you would have put into savings and not even thought twice about.
and if the Ellis family is listening, yes, she did say, "I'm the saver," so thank you very much. But you're right, I mean, it's just like it's taken us so long, and luckily well, now I'm 28, but and 27, but it took us luckily not long enough. I mean, we could be in our 40s and be like, "Oh, well, we just did 15 years in our careers and
Mhm.
we have nothing to show for it." But now we have high yield savings accounts, we have property investments, we have
You have your Pokemon stash.
yeah, other investments that just are accruing equity every day. Um, and you have 401k. I mean, we have a lot of different revenues that we've taken those options, but it's taken a lot of education and just learning lessons to finally get to that point in life where we can both say, "Yep, we're doing the right things and we're not throwing money out the fucking window." And we're back. But yeah, I think we could talk about this a little bit too, briefly, because we've kind of already covered a lot of things, but with it. But what would be your biggest advice for young couples out there struggling, whether they're in high school, whether they're young in their 20s or even older? What's one thing that you would say? Uh, kind of advice. Keep moving forward.
2 things is make sure you know who you are.
Mm,
Figure out yourself and what you want, and then you guys can master that communication, as after you guys figure out who you are. Um, yeah.
yeah. Um, I think that's good advice. No, and we're not saying that you got to be like, oh, I'm gonna retire at 65 with
No.
this is this, and it's like just know, hey, I want like big questions. I want to I one day want to own a house and have a
Yeah.
family. I want to be married at some point, or I want to be able to explore the West Coast. I want to explore Papua New Guinea, whatever it is. Have some basic core beliefs and things that you want to accomplish in this life, and then find somebody that'll help you do those.
Yeah. I
It,
also think just knowing who you are too, like knowing what you value, what
mm,
religion you want in your life, and even those other questions you were asking, just simple things too about yourself of or like having self-confidence that I lacked. Like that would have made a relationship even stronger if I had that at the beginning.
yeah. And if you find yourself in a position where you don't see those things and you're really struggling, you're like, maybe this isn't the person, even though I've been with them for 2 years. I really like their parents. I really like, different things about them, but I just don't find us connecting on a lot of the most important things. Then maybe it's okay to move on. And I think a lot of the times when you have that light bulb flick of like, oh, these are the things I want to accomplish in life and none of these align.
Mhm.
Oh, well, maybe, even though I thought this was the person I was going to end with, it's not.
Or at least
That's
having
okay.
that conversation so they
Mhm.
know you're on a different page too, I think.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to get into a relationship, 10, 15 years later where they're like, "Oh shit, I'm trapped now,"
Talk about regret, yeah.
like, that's not what you want either.
I think anyone can
Being
agree,
real
yeah.
with yourself is huge.
Waking up next to somebody in your late 30s and being like, "Man, I just built this whole life with this person that I don't have anything in common with, or we didn't accomplish anything I wanted to," and it can be extremely scary. So,
Relationship's a two-way street, so make sure.
they said, "We're no love doctors or no love gurus."
No.
Um, like I said, I work in a field of sales. The only thing where you can test yourself on is your results. I would say 11 years, 2 kids, and a partridge in a pear tree is decent results at 28, 27. If we can shine any light on that, I think that's pretty good. Uh, well, let's get into the general questions that
Oh,
everyone
boy.
gets to answer. You've gotten to take up a good amount of time of fun questions. So, um, when you look into the future, obviously waking up every single day and knowing what you're trying to accomplish in life, what kind of gets you out of bed and what keeps you going in every single day?
I definitely say the girls at this point.
Yeah.
Like, hearing that knock, knock on the door is the best thing I have to wake up to every day, and if you don't know, Freya has a big girl bed that's on the floor, and she's never liked the crib, so we just moved her straight to a full-size mattress on the floor, and
Mhm.
when she's ready to get up in the morning, she just comes up and goes, "Knock, knock, knock," and sometimes it's at 3 in the morning like last night, and
Yeah.
others it's, at 8:30, and you just sometimes you're like, "Oh, I can't do it," but then you go in there and it's worth it. Everything, her smile, her everything about her just makes you wanna get up and go.
Yep. I I think we can both agree that the kid and now kids
Mhm,
are a huge factor of getting up every day and just saying, "Well, I gotta take the next day on." Um, even now when it's really hard and, obviously we've been going through a lot of difficulties, uh, with you being pregnant and it not being a super easy pregnancy, me with my health, both of us struggling money-wise, you could go into school. I mean, there's 100 reasons to stay in bed, you
mhm.
know? But I think we both know that the life we're trying to build is more important than the emotions that we feel in that moment. And so even in the mornings that we don't successfully get out of bed, eventually we do because those reasons are tugging us out, you know?
When I think about it too, like, I'm motivated for school because I want Freya and us to have the best future,
Yeah,
and I am motivated to go to work to go make us money so we can continue to have what we want, and even your health, like, you're motivated to find an answer where before you would have just been like, "Well, they said it's nothing."
yeah,
You've never been this motivated to be like, "I gotta figure it out because I feel like we have kids, like, we've gotta be able to be a parent, and you can't
yeah,
be a parent, laying in bed all day." Like,
yeah.
the motivators are the girls.
I wanna be a healthy dad, and it's a hel to be the best husband, to be the best father, to be the best friend, to be the best son, brother, you gotta be healthy. And so, for anyone who doesn't know, I've had a lot of health complications in my life. I don't like to dwell on them or brag about them in a sense, but, yeah, with my back, I mean, still to this day, I just eventually gave up. I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
it's just something I'm gonna deal with." I stopped going to appointments. I stopped answering calls. Basically, got separated from the army because I just stopped trying,
Mm.
and, um, I'm not doing that with this. I am, yeah, trying to be super active about it. So, um, no, I think you're right. I think it's just obviously, we have more reason than most to get out of bed. So I can't sit there and say, "Oh, we're just whatever," but, um,
It's definitely
we've built those reasons to get out of bed. So if you're struggling to get out of bed in the morning and you don't know what's next, find a reason.
yeah.
Find something that'll get you out, 'cause everybody does it. Even if your life's the most peachiest thing in the world, even if you're a billionaire with 8 kids and a tummy full of food, you still don't wanna get up in the morning, but find a reason, find a way, and on to the next, I would say. So, but anyhoozle, um, what do you think your younger self would be most surprised to learn about who you are today? What'd you say? I know what it would be.
What?
I think if you took 2 video clips and put one where you were like this little puppy next to me,
Mhm.
and then another one where you're basically like calling me out and talking shit, and you put them side by side and put you in the middle, you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just us. So obviously, I have questions more geared towards your younger self, before you met me, but since knowing you, I would say that's probably the
Yeah.
biggest holy shit moment.
I'm gonna say because everything that I have wanted, I have done. I got in trouble on the school bus when I was little for teaching the boys how babies are born. I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and that's
Mhm.
all I love to do is educate my patients on everything possible, and why I'm going back to school to be a midwife is because that's all I wanna do is I wanna educate and help people understand their bodies and why they function the way they do. So, like, job-wise, that's exactly where I wanted to be, like, I wanted to marry young, and I wanted to have kids, like, I didn't know how many, but I knew that I wanted it, and so I think that's hard too, is, like, I my check marks are all checked, or I'm checking them as we go on.
Yeah.
Um
And it got brought up with Brennan, and it sounds arrogant to say out loud, but it's true. For people like us who have had extremely blessed lives,
Mhm,
who have, been successful enough to check off all those boxes that we've ever wanted and checked off, but still be so young to continue to build those boxes.
mhm.
What do you think are some new things that you found about yourself that you're trying to accomplish? Or what keeps your goals active and motivated to try and do more things?
New
'Cause I know for us, it was at the furniture mall recently when I had the job. I wrote down it was a two-fold page, right? On the
Mhm,
left-hand side, I had everything I'd done in the last 5 years, and then on the right side, everything I wanted to do in the next 5 years. The left-hand side was literally top to bottom filled out, and
mhm,
the right-hand side had 3 things on it. And I sat there for hours, and I was like, "Well, what the hell do I wanna do next?"
yeah.
It was raise a happy family, continue making money and continue to try and be a better boss or something. Like,
Yeah,
it was just like, well, what the hell do I do now? So it's like, I think when you get to that point, it can be really hard to think of your future goals, but I think you have to have them because I think otherwise you get stagnant, you get complacent, and you don't continue to progress and become a better person or,
yeah.
become something that you want to be in the
And I
future.
think it's hard too for us because we had this 5 to 10-year plan, and we met it all in 1 year.
We
Like,
got it
we
done.
were just like, "Yep, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it now."
Yeah.
Um, which was very cool, and but again, you have that shock of like, "Oh shit, I've done all of this,
Hmm.
now what?" But I think for me, graduating school is my huge thing and my what I'm really pushing for right now, but also, um, trying to figure out what is home. Like, yes, we live in Kansas City, but is this where we wanna live permanently? Is this where we can find the best schools for the girls? Or,
Yeah.
like, can we build a community here that we're lacking right now?
Hmm.
Um, and is there jobs for me here? Like, a midwife in the Midwest is not near as popular as a midwife out in Oregon. Like, they are just not as common, and we still rely on OBs so much in the Midwest versus out west, they are just midwives, midwives, midwives. So,
I think it's a very different point in our lives because, yeah, like I said, since I was 7, I've always known I want to be on the West Coast, and we did it. And we've had other places like, oh, we like Utah. We both really wanted to move to
mm,
Utah, and different things like that. But yeah, we're at a point now where it's like it has nothing to do what you or I want.
mm-mm,
It has, like you just mentioned, where is the best communities for our kids to grow up in? Who people are we gonna have the best relationships, or who do we have the best relationships to help raise our kids?
mhm. You
And
wanna surround them with.
yeah, and where's the best school? So I like you said, I think we're finally at a position where we don't have a direction.
Mm,
And that's, I wouldn't say scary, but kind of intriguing to me because I've known since 7 where I wanted to go. But now at 28, I'm like, well, shit. I think in 3 years from now, I could be in fucking New Hampshire and be like, I don't know. I have no idea, and I've never had that before, and, like you said, I think that's really it's exciting, but
And I
so
think you get nervous about that too, because like, in the meantime, while I'm going through school, it's like our life's on hold,
yes.
um, which is scary.
For the first time in my life, it's literally the parking brake is on.
That's never been on for
Never
me.
been I mean, we've always lived life in the 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th gear,
Mm.
trudging forward, and all of a sudden, we got to a stoplight, and we turned the parking brake on. You know, like, we've had plenty of conversations. I've had a lot of time to try and come to grips with that, and I think I finally am getting there. Uh
And there's nothing wrong with that at all, for
No.
sure. And it's good because we get to grow as a couple, as a family. We get to find what we're looking for in the next
Yeah,
step too,
I agree. It's just the first time in our lives we're not, "What's next?
right? We're not going 100.
Where are we going next? What job are we taking next? Well, you know, what trip are we taking next?" It's, "Oh, we're about to have another kid. We have a kid. We're gonna be exactly where we are 3 years from now, and that's okay, and we're gonna love every second of it, and that'll be awesome, and I've truly loved the journey. It's been tough, and there's a lot of times where it's like you have to reflect and you have to accept what it is, but, um, as I mentioned before, I think that my religion and my beliefs have made a huge impact on this transition, and I don't think I could have done this 3, 4 years ago
No.
without having the beliefs in the systems in place. So, let's jump into the religious talk because I think it's important for people to know too that even as a married couple and someone who's been together for 11 years, we have extremely different religions and
Yeah.
extremely different beliefs, but we have never once in our life like, hated each other for it or
No.
thought negatively of each other for it, but rather help support each other in both of those endeavors and help, you know, go deeper. Like with me with meditation and different things like that, you've done nothing ever but then try to help or try
Yeah.
and put me in positions to get better at that. And, you know, you've never really truly been a super religious person, but
No.
in the sense of, like, I've always given you the ground of, "If that's what you need, let's talk about it," or,
Mhm.
you know, "Here's my input in the best way possible," and go on from there. So I think it's very important to know that you can find somebody and love somebody with your entire soul, and you don't have to see eye to eye on some of the most critical points of life.
Right. Well, and before I met you too, and I would say around 10 years old is when I started asking mom and dad about going to church and all that because all my friends on the soccer team were going to church. From 10 to 16, we were going to church twice a week. We really dove into it. My dad is a very religious person, and my mom is as well. I would say mom's more faithful, dad's more religious.
Hmm.
Um, but let go, let God is the first comment that I get every time I call mom and I'm struggling with something, like um so I think that I was raised in a much stronger religion religious family than you were too. So I think that's why I carry it with me more than you do. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we always make the joke, Sarah crossed the threshold of the church maybe 2 times before I was 18,
Yeah.
but she always supported Jason,
Yeah.
no matter what. "Hey, kids are going to church, we're going to this, we're going to that," and it was always an enforcement, and even if dad was working on Wednesdays, she was still making sure we were at church on time doing those things, so, but yes, it wasn't she was not a religious woman, and so, yeah, I can understand that double
Double side, yeah.
double team
Mhm.
and pushing the religion in that sense, but, um,
That's one thing I felt like my parents didn't do, which I was blessed, is they didn't really push it.
no.
They were there to be supporters and educators through it. Um, which as a kid and you're trying to figure out who you are is huge. I mean, it gave me good morals, it gave me good values, it gave me things to stand on. Like I wouldn't be who I was without those. 100% wouldn't be.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Um, and yeah, I mean, we'll touch on it a little bit as we continue to grow, but um, we'll save it for the next question. First of all, let's answer the in the essence of humanity and its origins.
Mhm.
What version beginning makes the most sense to you? Scientific, spiritual, or something in between? I think obviously you're more of a spiritual.
I'm a spiritual, but I'm in science too.
Yes.
Like, you know, I have patients that I've seen that are like, "Oh, nope, we're not gonna do anything science because God's gonna take it and run with it." I've had literally people refuse things almost to their deathbed and their baby's deathbed, saying God is gonna take over and God is gonna provide. But then I also see the scientific stuff behind it, and I'm like, "That's not gonna work," you know? And so I fight that even at work every day. So, like, when you ask the question of, like, the origins of humanity, it's like, I was raised and I've read the Bible to say one thing, but then I've also studied and I've seen the other thing. So it's hard for me to kind of differentiate, like,
What's
how are there two different sides? Like, there's
yeah.
got to be something in the middle. Um, yeah,
I mean, even growing 2 children inside of you, I mean, it's gotta be that double standard too of, like, believing in a greater power and, like, giving you the ability to do that,
yeah,
but also understanding science and understanding what your body needs to intake, what you need in your body or to actively do every day to make this a process.
yeah.
To go from literally just the smallest little specimen to Freya,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't ignore science.
No.
And I know I think it's easy to say, "Oh, well, that's God," or "That's somebody, a higher power making that happen." It's like, I mean, 9,000,000,000 times they're just, having those touch points? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's just science. I think that it's and I've had moments as a father where you see things and you're just like, "Who taught you that? Like, how did you do that? Where did that come from?" Or even just watching the miracle of life and
Yeah.
just watching that process, it's like, "Holy shit, how is it even possible?" But it's it is a hard differentiator when it comes to where does it all start? Did one person, have the seed and then it just transpired into that? Obviously, we're all adults and we know how, you make a kid, but it's just like you don't see it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't
It's such a small
it is a leap of faith to say, "Oh, well, because I did this deed, now all of a sudden I'm impregnated, and now all of a sudden this is all happening because of choices I made." Like, it yes, it can be dumbed down in that sense, but, like, to physically like, you don't physically see it. You don't see the sperm go into the egg, that flourish into an actual fetus, and then so on and so forth. So it does take a leap of faith to believe either or in that sense in how it all started. It's kinda like the chicken or the egg, which came first? So, did we evolve enough times to the point where we're at our current state in Homo sapiens, or did we have a founding father who existed and kind of spawned everything out from there? But at the same time, who created that founding father then? If you wanna go that route of saying, "Hey, it's God and God put me there," then who created God? Who started all of that? Because you have to continue, and that's why with evolution, it makes more sense to me, is because you can take those following steps and go higher up the food chain. Okay, you believe in Homo sapiens. Okay, what was before that? Homo erectus, or so on and so forth. And there was 10 to 15 different humans, quote unquote,
Mhm.
that existed millions and millions and millions of years before us, and it basically took millions and millions of years to break us down and give us different versions of ourselves to the point we are to what we are today. That makes sense to me. But for someone who believes in Jesus and Christianity, it's more of, hey, well, there's a God. He basically said at some point in time, I want to create humans. Boom, here's a seed. And then it just evolved into what it is today.
And a lot of that is just having faith that that's how it happened too.
You have to,
Yeah.
because to me, explaining it the way I just did makes a million times
And
more
that's why I
sense.
feel like a lot of people will believe that first
Y
because that is the scientific, we have X, Y, and Z, and this makes sense.
Mhm.
Or it's hard to be like, "Yep, I 100% believe this because I just have faith that it's true, or I have hope that it's true." That's very hard for people to do.
So it wraps up a very important question. Where do you think that faith stems from? Why are people so reluctant to just jump to it and just say, "Well, that's my faith, so I'm gonna believe in that," rather than taking the time to, like, "Let's put pen to paper and let's go from A to extra 32 and say, 'Boom, boom, 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 this is how it happened,'" rather
I feel like
than
it helps when you can't make sense of things. There's a lot of things in
Sure.
life that you can't make sense of, like, I think back to the miscarriage a lot, and why was that baby taken from us
Mhm.
versus Freya or this next baby? Like, I don't know, and I never will know,
No.
and I just have to have faith that that was what needed to happen at that point. Um, and that's the biggest thing I think about with faith too, is just like, why was this person taken from me too early? Like, even a friend or a family member, like, you have to have faith that that was the right timing, that was how it was supposed to be, and it helps you cope with things. It helps you cope with, like, okay, if I die tomorrow, what happens? I have faith that I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to live out my days there.
But it's a choice
Yeah, it's a choice.
to choose that rather than overanalyze or
Right.
say, "Hey, because this happened, because of this,"
Mhm.
see, like I said, it breaks it down to in my mind, it's a cause and effect. Because I chose to stay up till 1 in the morning, I now wake up at 7 and I feel like shit.
But not everything you can break it down like that.
Of course, but you could also be in the opposite where you could just take a leap of faith and say, "Oh, well, because
Mhm.
this, I'm gonna feel better about this." And so I can see both sides of it. Rather, in my eyes, I struggle with it because it feels like a scapegoat. It feels like rather than analyze it and try and truly break it down and figure out the truth, it's a scapegoat. And I know that's not for everything, and that's a very blanket statement.
Mhm.
However, I think it was just part of us growing up. It was always we saw people do whatever they wanted to, and they go, "Oh, well, Jesus will take my sins for me."
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm gonna go do this on the weekends, but on Sunday, I'll be there to pray and it'll bless my sins away. So it's just like, I just feel like Christianity, and from my perspective, has always been a scapegoat. It's always been something, well, rather than answering the hard questions, I'll just pass it off to the next person. Rather than go down this rabbit hole and try and figure out all these different things, I'll just pass it off to the next person and they'll figure it out. And so,
There are definitely some people who live that way.
yeah.
And it ruins the religion because that's not how it's meant to be. Um, but I think faith helps you get through the hard days and helps you. For me, I don't like to overanalyze everything. Like, there are definitely some things I will, um, but I would spend all day focusing on some of those harder things.
Yes.
And so just saying, okay, that's how it's supposed to be. We're going to go with it. And that's how I am able to cope with things.
I think that's where religion jumps into play is where you have that border where it's like, we'll never know.
Mhm.
So either I think you have a two-sided bridge or a two-sided, like, let's say a Y intersection, right?
Mhm.
So you breach it to the point of we'll never know. You can either take the left route where it says, well, let's just leave it up to faith and I believe it's meant to happen for a reason and move on, or the right route, as in right-handed route, and say, well, I'm gonna analyze this and try and figure out the actual reason, and you'll never know, but you can get it's a hypothesis, it's a
Yeah.
theory. So you can either take the theory, the hypothesis route, or you can take the faith route.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, both of them are just ideologies. So I think that's fair to say you can either take the ideology of a greater power, or you can take the ideology of I think I know what's going on and try and make it make sense in a more physical, scientific route.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, nobody knows. The science community can't say, well, I can say on this day in whatever BCE, this was the first human, this is how they spawned. We can't say that. And you also can't say on the Christian route, well, this is the exact day that God dropped Adam. onto the planet, he procreated, and this is how humans go out.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's why I'm able to understand your side of things a little bit more is because I struggle with the thought of who's and this is the faith coming in to say
mhm,
that my God is the only God, but then I have all these patients who have different religions but still have the same concepts, and they are so sworn on that their God is the only God, and how how am I to say that they're wrong?
mhm,
And so I think that's what I really struggle with, and maybe that's because 'cause I'm not in more into Christianity like I used to be, but I know that's why I struggle with that, and I know that's why I think I can understand where you're like, "Oh, I get the" what do you wanna say?
both sides of it.
Both sides of it, yeah.
Yeah,
And, like, I want the girls to understand the morals and the values that religion offers and the faithfulness and the spirituality of all of that. But I'm open for them to exploring other religions and why those religions believe what they believe.
mhm,
And then having them be able to make that choice too of like, okay, like this is why I believe this. Um, and if they choose to be a Christian, that's fantastic. I'm excited to support them in that as well. Um, but again, if they choose to be more on your side of things, that's totally fine too. Like that is something that they get to settle at the end of their days, whether it's with the God they believe in or no God at all.
yeah, and I mean, I think it draws back to, like we said before with Sarah, where it was like, no matter what, we're gonna it's good to expose you to what you think good possibilities can be, and that's what you gotta do as a parent,
Mhm.
is expose your kids to the most positive things that you can find and let them make their own decisions,
Yeah.
right? Whether you believe in it or not, like,
Mm.
find good things and things that could come with positive outcomes and expose them to it.
Yeah.
Even if, like, for instance, I always still make fun of my dad for being a thespian, but guess what? I would love nothing more for Freya in the next one to sing their, blues out and maybe even pick up a tuba or a flute and play out the instruments, you know what I'm saying? But, like, it's just, as a parent, yes, exposing them to positive things, getting them as involved as they possibly can with
Mhm.
good things, and, that's I think a lot of times when you're in elementary and in middle school and your parents are making you do all these things and you're just like, "Oh my god, why would they ever do that? I hate this. Why would they force me to do this?" They're exposing you a positive thing.
Yeah.
There's plenty of parents out there who expose you to horrific things and they don't think about it, but it's like a good parent is gonna make you do things that you're not comfortable with, but with the best intentions.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, back to our kids, I think it's very important that they see all sides. And like you said, I don't think it should ever be to the point where you look them in the eyes and say, "This is the only way, and you can't believe anything else."
Yeah.
This is what dad believes, and this is why. This is what mom believes, and this is why.
I've
Would you
seen
like to explore both of those? Or, let's show you both sides.
I've seen so many people to be pushed so far into Christianity and other religions that they're like, "Nope," and then they go completely the other way too.
Yeah,
And I don't want that to happen either. Like, I want you to be forced enough to have good morals and values
yeah.
and learn from those at a young age because I think that helps you teach them before you can fully understand those concepts and then go from there.
It's a tough balance.
It is, absolutely.
And you and me have both shared from Briar Cliff. We both saw it firsthand, where we saw some people who were, Bible thumpers. Their parents made them just thump that thing till it bled. And then they got there and they went buck wild.
The rails,
Like,
yeah.
we're talking girls who had never talked to a guy before, guys who had never talked to a girl before, never had a sip of alcohol, never had freedom. The second they went to college, it
Mhm.
was all hands on deck, go bananas. Yeah, I think I completely agree in the sense of you gotta give them a little bit of a leash
Mhm.
and not overdo it, and but that's parenting, It's so hard to not do you fill the cup too much? Do you fill it not
Mhm.
enough? Do you
And
get
you're
that
gonna make
medium line that makes them
mistakes.
happy? It's so tough.
You're gonna make mistakes. You kinda grab and pick and choose what you learn from your parents, and then you will make your own mistakes too going through it, so
And we're not even at that part yet. We're just trying to make the human pee poop and put a smile on our face once in a while, so
Yeah.
wait till we get to that part, but, I think moving on from that in the sense of, do you think that in that sense as humans were created with intention? Or do you think that God just decided at some point by chance, let's try this
No, I think there's intention.
intent to what is our intent as humans then? What are we put on the earth to do? Yeah? If he put us here for a purpose, what was our purpose? What are we supposed to do? And I think it's easy to pass off and say, "Oh, we'll love him," but
But he doesn't need us to love him if he's the greater power.
and dying for our sins. So it's like it's a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
Did he put us here for a purpose? If that's true, then why did he put us here for a purpose? And it can't be just to sulk him in. And I know that's obviously the more extreme is where people say, "Oh, well, he put us here for a purpose, so I'm going to become a nun or a monk and give everything to him
Yeah.
because he put me here for a reason, so I'm going to give back to him." Um, whether it's a balance and like, "Oh, well, he put us here for a reason to enjoy life and be happy, but also in my free time give back to him and praise him and thank him for what he gave to us." You don't know.
Yeah.
But, like I said, I like to take the other route where it's like, I think we're here by chance. I think we're lucky. I think we're the most lucky things living organisms in the galaxy, and that's why I don't take a single second for granted because we're just here and we're living the dream. So why dwell on it? But we'll move on from there. Um, I know you mentioned obviously with the healthcare field and seeing a lot of the different things
Mhm.
in kind of going back and forth between the 2, but more geared towards Christianity and God. Has there been a specific experience that has kinda led you in your spiritual belief? And how does that kinda shaped you? Is there, like, one thing you're brain like, "Oh, that was God. That was a higher power intervening, and that is why I believe what I believe in."
I don't know if there's a specific, like, patient that I can pull out of my head, but back when we were working in South Dakota, I had a lot of hospice patients, and we were talking about this the other day. Like, I would have I've seen schizophrenic patients before who are talking to people in the corner, but
Mm,
there's a difference of when they're sitting there and they can see God or they can see, um, their wife that was passed a few years later or earlier and having them see those conversations and then having them pass within minutes, hours, or days. Like, it's one of those things that you're like, it makes you believe that there's something out there. And I think that's why I've never turned that switch off, is because I've seen it firsthand of those patients seeing the afterlife, seeing that there's something out there. And I want that. I want to know that there is something that is going to be there after this life. And I want that for I know when my parents pass, when my grandparents pass, like I want to know that they are there, they're okay, and that they are able to see me and support me
yeah.
throughout my life.
I think it's a tough and it always brings back to the question of what is the purpose, right?
Mhm.
What are we doing every single day if it's not for a greater purpose? And to have as a nurse those I mean, it's death experiences. You get to see death and there's not very many people who get to experience that in this world or until they get to see their loved ones die. But to see it frequently and see it often it gives you a different perspective. You know, obviously, at one point, I'll have my mother on, and hopefully she opens up enough about this, but being an ER nurse, I can't even fathom the number of people she's literally watched die or seen go into whatever happens after this, and yet, through all this, she still remains neutral. So it's like it's very interesting to see how one experience can translate somebody into a belief, and then another hundreds of experiences, thousands, keeps the same. But, I think that's what makes us human, is that everybody has similar experiences, but we all come out with a different perspective or a different belief.
I also think about my mom too and her situation that she had had, with her heart stopping and
Yeah.
just the pure luck that she was in the right spot at the right time when that happened. And like to know that she left and came back, like, is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, I have to have faith that she was in God's hands. Like, she was in a higher power's hands, and he said, "You are not done yet. You're coming back."
Which is so crazy because yeah, it's and we've talked about this all the time. We live in an era where everyone can watch the same thing happen, but we come with different
Mhm.
conclusions. In my mind, I'm like, "Oh my god, what a lucky motherfucker that
Right.
her heart failed. She basically died
Yeah, she died.
and got brought back on the table." And I'm like, "What a place to die," you know? In
Mhm.
my mind, that's what it says. It says, "Oh, well, you got lucky as fuck. You died and you were in the hands of a healthcare representative." But in your eyes, it's like, no, God put her on that table to have what she needed to have
At that point.
at that point,
Mhm.
and then also have the people around her. So that was God intervening and putting that in a master plan altogether.
Yep.
And I can 100% see that side. I just don't see it that way. I don't see.
No, it's fine.
Well, of course, but it's just like in my I always reflect back to the billions of people and the billions in trillions of lives that have lived before us.
Mhm.
It's like I understand the almighty power and all that thing could have a factor in play and all that and like dictate and widow all those things, but it's like at that millisecond, is there truly somebody out there pulling the strings like
Mhm.
a puppet and making all those things happen at once? That's not for me. But for you, it makes sense, and that's the thing, I can see it both ways.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see it, and I can't say either one's right or wrong. It's just comes down to what feels right, but
Mhm.
either way, like I said, we have those, but the overall outcome's the only thing that matters. She's still here. We're incredibly grateful for it, and that's like everything in life. We can't thank enough for whatever happens. We'll just never know, but
Mhm.
what we
Until the
believe
end.
in gets us through it, so Um, well, that kind of when it comes to the end, if there's one thing that people will remember about you when you die, what would you want it to be?
I wanna be known for myself, be giving to whether it's my patients, my family. Think that is who I just, like, strongly try to be. Um,
Like your dad.
yeah, exactly. Like, I still want to be myself and be able to have time for myself because I
Mhm.
know you have helped me know that that is a priority. Um, but to be able to know that I'm willing to stay up at any hour to help you finish something or do something or drive across the country just to be with you on your special moment or um yeah, whatever, big, small, in between, those who I truly care about, I want to be remembered as selfless and willing to drop anything for you.
I think it's a good thing. Um, and I 100% always acknowledge that in you is that no matter what, you put people first. It's it's a nurse trait.
Mhm.
It's a, personality, daughter, whatever you want to say, but it truly at the core, it's who you are.
Mhm.
And you're always gonna put other people first. It doesn't mean that you're not thinking about yourself or what's best for you, but it's at the end of the day, I see it every day. I see it every day.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, this hurts the belly, whatever, I don't feel good." But then 2 seconds later, you're walking around doing whatever Frey needs done, and it's like,
Mhm.
"Sit down, like,
Yeah.
let me do it. I can do that. I'm an able-bodied man." And you're like, "Well, no, I gotta do it. It's part of I gotta
Part of
give
being a mom.
I gotta give Freya what she needs."
Mhm. I
And
think my
so
dad was a good example of all of that, and he still is to this day, like,
he fucking is,
I
yes.
call him anytime I need something and he's telling me how, or my car was broken, called him, he sent me my mom with a kit so I could fix it myself since he couldn't come that weekend. Like, it's just little things like that, like, he has ingrained in me and
I've been around a ton of people in my life, and it's your father obviously is the epitome of it, but you as well. It's just giving everything to everybody else is crazy because you do not see that anymore.
I think you struggled with that for me because 'cause you're like, "Why are you doing that?"
Yeah.
But
Why wouldn't you think of yourself first? I
it's
couldn't fathom it.
who I am, I just can't.
And But you don't see that. I mean, in today's society, everything's about me, me, me. What do I want? What makes me better? What improves my life? Not about what helps the people around me. How do I improve the lives around me? And that's what you focus on.
Mhm.
It's not taught that way anymore.
No.
Nobody thinks that way anymore. And it's not a bad thing to have. So I think yeah, and I mean, obviously knowing you now, if you died tomorrow, that's one thing that I always remember about you is that it was always people first. You always cared about other people, and you were willing to do anything.
Mhm.
And you've always been that way. It doesn't matter what it is. And I try and embody that. I really do. And I've tried to get better at that. I think one of my favorite examples of that is Suey was trying to go on this Pokemon trip with us, and he calls me at 7 o'clock at night and goes, "Hey, either I get a flight tomorrow morning and layover at 6 a.m. and sit in the airport for 12 hours, or you can come drive to Seattle
Mhm.
4 hours away and pick me up, and
I'll be
then
there.
4 hours back." And I didn't even hesitate. I was like, "I'll see you in 4 hours,"
Mhm.
and made the 8-hour round trip at 7 o'clock at night, so we didn't get back till 3 in the morning, but I wouldn't have ever done that
Mm-mm.
before you. You know, I would have been like, "Figure it out, buddy," like, you know?
That's
Um,
when it's the people you love too, which makes it a little easier, but it's for the
yes,
people you don't love is when it makes it
the
harder,
hardest.
and I think for, like, my patients, like, going forward, like, as a midwife, to know that I'm willing to drop things just to go in and, be there to be their comfort because I know how important it is to have like, we had Lena for our delivery and we had Mary, like, they saw us through our whole pregnancy, and to just see that face just put all of your anxieties to ease.
Yeah,
And so that's one thing that I really want to help with, like, my patients going forward too, is that of, "Okay, I've seen you in clinic 5 times, awesome, like, do you want me to be there night or day? I'll be there." So
yeah. Um, shows a lot of I mean, leadership too. I mean, that was one thing that we talked about when you decided to go to midwife and do all these things is there's a lot of characteristics about yourself that you've never recognized.
yeah.
You just don't know are there, and I think that's a big part of an important part of me being a husband and being a good partner is bringing out the best in you
Mhm.
and letting you know what is, out there and what's truthfully what you show every day, even if you don't realize it, and you've done the same for me, I always
Good, bad, and ugly.
good, bad, and ugly, I will refer to the good in this situation, but, even the sales thing, you've told me since you met
Before you
me
went to school.
I would be a great salesperson, and I tell the story all the time where I was like, I could never be a sales guy because I think of used car salesmen and people trying to manipulate people and people trying to steal and do all those things, and it's like, that's not what it is, and you just always kind of push towards that and, like, this is who you are, this is your personality, this is what it is, but you gave me the room to become who I was
Present
supposed to
yourself.
be, and so, um, I think that's all I can do, and all I can do is leave you the breadcrumbs of who I think you are and who you show me every day,
Mhm.
and for you to find yourself, the truth. So, I think that's a good broad estimate of relationships is all you can do is try and help guide the person to the cookie crumbs and eventually get to your nice little cheesecake that you love. So, um, when it comes down to the final moments in life and you have let's say if the doc looked at you in the eyes and said, "Darren, you have 15 minutes to live." What are some check marks and some boxes that you're like, "I wanna cross off and make sure that happened in my life?" Or I was that person before you die and move on to whatever happens next.
I think being a good role model for the girls, um, is gonna be my biggest thing going forward. Think we grow up in a society that is very social media, ruins everything, and it's very different views than what we have, you know, aka all the looks at the Grammys, a lot of these women are just not covered, and I want to show the girls that it's okay and to be modest, and you can still be gorgeous and be modest.
Mm.
Um, or you can be more of a tomboy if you want, or be whoever you are, and that is okay. Um, I think that's the biggest thing that I want before I die is to make sure that is instilled in them, that they can be whoever they want and however they want, and that's okay. Um, counting down your days.
No, it's important being who you're meant to be. Um, that's something that I don't think gets talked about enough with our relationship is I've always admired that. Um, I've tell any of my guy friends, if you want to know if you love a woman, put her in some basketball shorts and a t-shirt with no makeup on, fresh in the morning. And if you still think she's beautiful, then that's who she is. You know, the way society is now. I mean, you don't know.
Mhm.
You don't know anyone. I
Yeah.
mean, whether it's the facade on social media, whether it's the makeup, whether it's the transitioning to God knows who is what, where, and when.
Mhm.
I mean, you just don't know who a true person is.
Yeah.
And so I've always made the joke. If you really want to know if you love a woman, put her in basketball shorts, a t-shirt, let her go to bed, wake up the next morning and see, look her dead in the eyes. If you think she's beautiful inside and out, God bless. Like, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you because it's just, you meet so many facades and everybody's got 18 personalities now and they show it on the
Well,
medias in
it's really
person
hard for
and
women to be raised
yeah.
in that too because, we see all of that and you see all these 11-year-olds shopping at Sephora and it's like I didn't wasn't allowed to touch makeup until I turned what, like 14. Didn't shave my legs, until you were hitting puberty and like all of those things. But those girls are doing it at such a young age. And I think instilling that in them that they can do it at whatever rate they want. They can be themselves is huge. And like you said, if they want to wear basketball shorts, that's fine. They do them. They comfortable, great. And I just want them to be comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, I
And whether that's a man by their side, a woman by their side, nobody by their side, I don't care.
yeah.
Being them, being happy, being true to themselves is all I want before I die.
It's hard to beat that. I mean, it's hard to argue. And a lot of times when people ask, "Well, didn't you want a son?" That's the biggest thing as a dad. "Didn't you want a son?" I go, "No." And the reason why is I think it's hard to raise girls.
Mhm.
It's hard to raise good women. And not saying it's easy to raise boys because it's not to raise a good man, but it's just like in my eyes, it's like I think when you find such a powerful woman and someone who's truthfully down to their core who they are, they embody who they are, they're not afraid, they're, a strong, beautiful, powerful woman. It's one of the coolest things in the world.
Yeah.
And our society's finally acknowledging these people and acknowledging women for what they are rather than just being like, oh, he's a man, so he's got
Yeah.
it. It's just like for me to be able to have the opportunity to raise such a powerful woman,
That's right.
someone like even if they were duplicates of you and be able to put that out in the world and just being able to say, I raised that, that's my kid,
Mhm.
is gotta be one of the most rewarding things I'll ever do.
Yeah.
Is, whether Freya or the next one gets out and whatever they accomplish, just being able to sit back and be like, I helped build that.
Yeah.
You helped build that. We helped build that is so cool to me. And, there's a lot of like I said, I'm not downgrading men or people who raise men or mom or dads who raise men, but, like, you think of history, you think of men. You think of people who are super powerful and embodying and charismatic and all these things, and that's fucking awesome. But how fucking cool would it be to raise a daughter who's everyone they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that was fucking Dylan Ellis's daughter.
Mhm.
That was Darion Ellis's daughter." Like, fuck yeah.
And I think that you personally needed girls. I
Mhm,
think you needed the softer touch. You need to be gentler, to learn more patience. Where like a boy, you're rough.
mm,
We are both more rough people, and
mhm,
so having
mm,
girls and learning that sensitivity and, um, you will find out eventually when they're teenagers that you have to word things just
hmm,
the right way just so they just don't have a full-blown meltdown because their hormones are everywhere, or, like, having those hard conversations with women is very different And I think that if we would have had a boy,
Would have
y
been
it
tough.
would have been tough for you.
Yeah. I think I even struggle now with Freya is when I get upset or she does something that she knows is wrong, it takes a lot out of me not to discipline her like a man would. Like how I would discipline, uh, you
A
know,
young boy, yeah.
a young boy,
Mhm.
whether that was working at the Boys and Girls Club and seeing both the differences, a girl fucking up versus a guy fucking up,
Mhm.
being a manager, being in the military,
Yeah.
all these things, you have to address them in separate situations. And I am way more prone and keen doing it the male way and just being the dominant right hand versus, like you said, being the okay, let's analyze what you just did because you just fucked up. For instance, she does it every day. So when she literally right now she has this giant little thing on her chin because she wanted to run into a goddamn door and then 30 seconds later put a blanket over her head and ran into the door a second time. It takes everything in my soul not to just belch out like a man would and be like, "Mm," but be like, "Okay, sweetheart, what are we doing wrong? Like,
Yeah.
what decisions are we making that has caused you to be in
Softer
so much
parenting.
pain?" Right? Being that way, and
Yeah.
some people would argue that's
Maybe we shouldn't run with the blanket on our head.
yes. Some people would argue that's just parenting style, but I think that's man versus woman.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it too in, like, high school, like, coaching a high school girls team has gotta
Yeah.
be way different than the way you coach a high school boys team, like, they just need different things biologically, like,
Yes.
it's just how it is, and so I think with Sarah raising
She
most 3
she raised some
boys,
strong boys.
very strong, powerful boys, you
Yep.
know, you guys all just need a little softness.
Mm.
Um,
Little touch of the faint heart, you say.
yes.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
And Jason tries his best, but the Sarah comes out in every single one of you kids.
Yeah, that soft boy,
Yeah,
Jason. I think Landon embodies it better. I think Landon embodies the 2 personalities the best. Me and Brendan have that hard nose.
yeah,
Landon and Lauren got it best. I think it's fun. Yeah, I think they have a very even personality between the 2.
yeah,
And me and Brendan got the stern personality.
yeah.
Um, but I digress. But no, I think one of the best things that, like, when it comes down to our final moments, I think we can both agree, looking back, if we have grandkids, great-grandkids, whatever happens in that moment, like, what did we do right? What did we embody into them, or what did we allow them to do to become the people they were meant to be? And did we do a good job? So, I think it's
I hope they say the same thing.
I know, I know. You never know until it's done.
Mhm.
Never know. But, I guess well, I have only 2 more questions, so bear with me.
Oh,
Um, when you think of society, and I know we talked about this a little bit briefly through all that, what do you think the world needs more of from people, and how do you try and embody that in yourself every day? I'll go first.
I got it.
Okay.
I think truth
Mm.
is a big thing that
Mhm.
the world needs
Mhm.
more of.
Mhm. Talk to him.
Um, I think, like, that's one thing I have a conversation with my patients every time, like, I am maybe a little too blunt for some people.
Well.
I come in and I gonna tell you what I'm seeing, why I'm seeing it. I have the education behind me to back me up,
Mhm.
and this is what it is. And some people love that, and some people are like, "No, I need you to sugarcoat it." Like, they don't wanna know that. Um, but I think even, like, social media will take something and put it in 4 different things, but what's
Mhm.
the actual truth? Or, you do this quite often. You have a concept and then you just like to throw a little spice into it and exaggerate just a little bit. And sometimes that's okay.
Never. I don't know what you're talking about.
But I don't want the exaggerated truth. I want the tell me exactly what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to hear. And a lot of people don't want to hear that anymore.
Yep. I can't argue with that whatsoever. I'm 1000% guilty of it. I find myself a lot of the times, let's just say if I pulled 3 apples from the tree, I'm gonna come find you and say, "Hey, Darian, I got 4 apples today."
Mhm.
Why? I don't know, but it's ingrained into
It's
my
an
brain that I gotta just be a little bit more than the truth. Why? I don't know, but I think that's a lot of the truth in today's society is that, okay, I am this person, but I gotta stretch it just a little bit to make it a more believable story. Um,
but I don't want the believable, like, I
I
want the truth
yeah,
every time.
and I think we're entering a day and age. I mean, we you see it all the time. You can pull up any social media, you can pull up anything. There's a truth, and then there's what they're telling you, and then there's what they're not telling you. There is
Well, I
never
think that's
the
why we have
truth.
so many political views on the same topic all the time is because this source says one thing, but then this source says the
Yeah.
other thing, but then this eyewitness is saw like there's always two there's more than one truth to everything, you know? You and I could see the same thing happening and we would think it happened completely different. And
Well,
that's the
yeah,
problem
the
too,
old
but
saying is there's 2 sides to a story, but
yeah,
nowadays there's 18 sides to a
correct.
story. And it's like, well, most times it's yeah,
And it's hard to
1,
decipher
2.
what
It's so hard. In I think it all comes back to the social media in the sense of there's just so many opinions,
Mhm.
and it's so hard to decipher them and just acknowledge them for what they are, their opinions.
Right, and then you have to create your own opinion off of other people's opinion,
Right.
which then is still far from the truth that actually happened, you know?
And it's even like me with podcasting and showing clips. Sometimes they're opinion evoked, sometimes they're just experiences. People view them for what they are, and they get to make their own decisions about it. And so I'm not going to be hypocritical and sit back and say, well, you know, everybody's stupid and they have their own opinions about whatever. Like, everybody sees the same thing, they have their own opinions. That's the world we live in now. It is no longer we. I think we used to live in a world that's black and white, where right versus wrong, yes, no,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
and I think that's why we struggle with so many of the big topics now as, like, a society,
Yeah,
because it's not black and white anymore.
it's not
You
black and white. There's not even I mean, you've got infinite colors of the rainbow
Mhm.
in all over the same situations, and it's incredibly tough. But I think when it comes back to what you embody in yourself is you don't go out there and put a bunch of bullshit out there, you
Mhm.
know? Like you said, you want the truth. So you don't take your extra time and post about, "Oh, well, I think this is what should have happened," or "I
Mhm.
think I would have done this in this situation, but even though I wasn't put into it."
Right.
You embody that. You just say, "Hey, I want the truth. If I don't know the truth, I'm not gonna talk about it."
I'm gonna find you somebody who does know the truth.
Yes, I'm gonna outsource it to somebody who can help us discover reality, and then we can move on from there. So, I can't argue with that whatsoever. I think the truth is something that we will have to raise our daughters to
Mhm.
try and dig as far as they can.
Yeah.
And
And my thing too is, like, it's okay to say you don't know the
yeah,
truth, you don't know the answer. But even with healthcare is I don't know everything, I know that, but let me see if I can point you into the right direction or point you to somebody who does know this right answer, because there is somebody out there who knows the truth.
yeah,
And I think that's okay, and I think having the girls know that too is huge. Like, I'm a mom who does not know everything, and I will never claim I know everything, and so, reaching out for help is okay.
amen. Can't say it any differently. Well, we've reached bonus hour.
Mhm.
I have to ask everybody who comes on, so you're one of the beautiful souls who gets to experience it. As a historian, you and me have had thousands of talks about this because I can't not talk about it because it's my favorite thing in the world to talk about. But let the people know the ancient pyramids, how do you think they were built and why? That's not a good enough answer.
Ah,
You've heard me talk about this for hours and hours, days, and maybe even weeks of your life.
yeah.
You have had to formulate something in your noggin that makes sense to you.
Nothing makes sense to me. Like, even the other day, a video popped up because we were having this conversation again, and it popped up on my thing and just realizing how big they are.
Yeah?
And I was like, "Okay," 'cause you know it's different when you, like, see it in person versus you see it in a picture, like, it looks so small on, like, all your little things, you
Huh?
know? I don't know how it was created, and I'm not gonna try.
Do you have a guess?
No.
Well, let me drop some knowledge on you, why don't I?
I don't wanna give you satisfaction of this question, I really
Well,
don't.
you've answered enough of my questions, so I
Yeah.
guess you're gonna drop some knowledge on your sweet, sweet soul. Um, it does. It lives in infamy, and the reason that I ask everybody this is because it's a lot of the questions that are raised today. Is there a right or wrong answer? No, right? So we can look back 5,000, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 years into our history. We're not going to know the answer, and we don't know what's real. We don't know what we can use the analytics that are in front of us and make a decision, or you can have faith. So I choose the analytical route
Yes.
and you choose the faith route. So the faith route would say, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't care.
Somehow they did it,
Somehow they did it and they're there.
and that's pretty cool.
That's cool. I take the complete opposite route. Fuck that. I need to know how they were built. Why were they built? How were they built? Who built them? When did they build them? And why? And I think that's the two brains. One brain says, la, 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 la. And the other brain says,
No.
let's be a squirrel and figure this out until our brain hurts.
But your brain is gonna continue to hurt because there is no answer that anybody, because nobody knows the truth.
But we can consider hypothesis and hypotheses to make it make sense. So
This goes back to the whole truth question, to the whole faith
give me
question.
2 seconds. So my most recent and favorite of the pyramid schemes, maybe not favorite, but it's up there, is that they used these. Everyone says the ramp pulleys, right? But let me paint you a picture. So basically, if you created ramps at a 7-degree angle and crisscross them and build them like this up, everything only had a 7-degree increase all the way until you got to the very pinnacle of it, right? It's not a pyramid. It's a squared structure. So basically, you start at the ground and you build it up, and you just do a 7% increase all the way up into the point where you stop, right? Then you get to the pinnacle. Then you've had this system where you can pull up 7 degrees, 7 degrees, 7 degrees until you get to the top, and then you can stone it away, where you can basically chisel it away into the
Mhm.
point where you get these impossible angles that they have
Yeah.
that are at 51.6 degrees where you can't physically slope anything up and make it, but it has this impossible slope because you chiseled it, you made it into
Mhm.
that. And then where it falls into, well, okay, well, if you made this, basically, it would say the pyramids that are today, in order for that to happen, it would have to be double the pyramids of today. Okay, so where's that extra pyramid gone into? Well, if you remember correctly, there's three pyramids on the Giza Plateau: the Great Pyramid, Khafre's Pyramid, and then I can't remember his name, but it starts with an M pyramid. So basically, you take the Great Pyramid, you do that thing that I just talked about, and then when you're chiseling away, you use those blocks as a foundation and build the same thing. And then when that's done, you chisel it away and you do the same thing. And so you have the Great Pyramid, Khafre's starts with an M, and then you start getting all these other pyramids, and essentially it looks like a recycling event. Essentially, at some point, they made this gigantic structure, chiseled it away, reused it to the next one, chiseled it away, reused it, and then it falls and falls and falls and falls and falls, and to the point where now we have pyramids that are from 2,100 years ago, 450 years after the original pyramid was built, quotes, and has stopped because they ran out of stones. And that's when everything's they're like they're still great monuments and different things like that, but it's just like they basically said, "Well, we can't do this anymore because we don't have the utilities to do it." So, in my mind, if I am in that brain realm of, yes, the 4th dynasty dynastic Egyptians built that, then yes, this is how they did it. I don't fall in that realm, but I'm just saying if I was a betting man and said, "Okay, yes, it was actually them and they actually did it," I think that makes the most sense. I think that's kind of fucking cool. I think we should retry that someday.
I
Not me personally, but I
I was
think we
gonna
should try
say,
that as a society. Anywho's, I won't bore you with the details. I've wasted probably hours of your weeks and days and
A
hours of your
lot.
life
We've had a
of
lot of nerdy
yes.
Egyptian conversations, and one day we will go there and you can geek out
Mhm.
endlessly.
Endlessly. So, well, anyways, I appreciate you coming on. I know that, like we said, this is not the easiest thing in the world for you to do. You made us very vulnerable. Us as a couple, putting ourselves out there on the internet wholeheartedly, and be everyone can take what we said over the last 2 hours in their own way, and they can take it their own way. And being vulnerable enough to have that, uh, relationship, I
Yeah,
think is really fucking cool. So, I love you.
love you too.
And I cannot wait for the life we're currently building, and I think in a who knows what time period, but we'll have to run it back and do it again and just catch up on everything that's happened in life,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. So